Wurm chose too few people around with the number of servers. Yeah, when they release more servers, they do spread out the population. However, releasing new servers also brings people to the game. So there's that catch-22 that happens.
Yeah, so how can you... And Pink Street,
thanks for the sub.
Thanks for the sub there. That's an entire debate over, did releasing new servers help this game or hinder this game? I don't even know if I want to get into that.
There's no question in my mind that it helped.
Long term.
Yeah, like long term it's going to help. It definitely helps long term because it brought so many more new people to the game. It made people way more aware about this game. And just that awareness alone, long term will definitely help because, we see now an event like this brings back all the old players. Now imagine, Wurm's going to go through a cycle again where it loses players, and we've seen that happen right now, and that's probably going to continue for a little while. But there are these waves that happen, right, where a percentage of the people who left come back, and because there's so many more players now, that those waves are going to consistently stay larger than they would have if they didn't open the new servers and launch on Steam.
I feel like it's half a solution.
Okay.
Is my thought. So releasing a server is a half a solution that solves a short-term need or something new and shiny to bring back people. And then damages the long-term health of the game over time, which is why people say the population is too spread out and now we got nothing that we can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that there's a better solution out there.
I'm sure that there is a better solution. They have done things to connect the servers a little bit more closely. So now travel time between places is less, and you see people travel from server to server far more frequently now than ever before. Once they did that plot course thing.
So what's the problem? That's a good question, Tuxie. What's the problem with the population being spread out? In this game, I would say, in Wurm, there are many different types of players. Some like to feel that they're close but far. Some like to feel that they're close, like all together, with neighbors in their local. The problem comes when the population is too spread out, that we're actively losing players that start the game because they feel as though they play for hours and hours and never run into a single person. At that point,
right.
It's damaging the game more than it's helping. It's a balance.
If a new player comes in and joins a server and finds that server's just dead, it's very likely they will just turn off and leave.
So there's something to be said about being away from neighbors or having space between neighbors, but then you don't want to make it so you never run into anybody the first time that you play. Right. When we joined back in 2012, so we joined Deliverance and we popped in and we started running in a direction, there were people.
Yep. And they were actively working on
They were actively working. It wasn't like constant. It wasn't constant like in this more recent land rush was probably like too densely populated. Too many people across the shore and that sort of thing. That was the other extreme that we don't want. But you don't want it to be the opposite of that either. So there has to be a balance. And that's what I'm saying. When Xanadu came out, and now with Xanadu being an older server, what do you do? And if you join Xanadu, you can run for hours and not run into anybody. It's just too large.
Right.
So there's a balance that has to happen. And here's the thing: other games that release a server, they don't have to think twice about it because, like Drogos, you're saying with World of Warcraft, for example, what happens when
you got to move there? It's flat now.
What happens when the population on a server, on a traditional MMO, goes down? They combine servers. They're actively trying to keep that balance going within their world. Now, Wurm has the ability to create new servers, but they have no feature or function that allows them to then continuously balance the population of servers based on the current population density distribution.
Right. Yeah, they can't collapse servers, or at least they won't collapse servers. Despite how few people are on Epic. Like, could you imagine a new player coming in and going, "Oh, Epic PvP, that looks really cool. Like, I'm gonna try that out." And they go over there and there's like 2 people on the server, or potentially nobody on the server.
Yeah. So, what could they do to balance out the amount of servers versus the amount of players in the game? That's a hard one to answer.
Yeah, that is a hard one to answer.
They have, sure. I mean, there's many things they can do that helps the perception. Like, what are we really trying to do here? We're not trying to change the way that old people play. We're trying to help with the perception for new players to indicate to them that the game is not dead.
Right. Recycle. Just
so Tuxi
I've had it up at 80.
Drogos, you're saying they don't actually show you the server population when you're choosing a server? Because they used to.
They don't show the server population, but they do say, like, I saw somebody post that they're still showing that little pop-up window that says Cadence is like the least populated, even though it's not anymore.
Oh wow, so that's a hard-coded thing. Yeah. No, they used to do it in Wurm. They used to just show the exact number of people online. That's why I chose Deliverance.
That
back
was
in 2012.
Window. Yeah, and also on the forums, they used to have it.
They used to have it on the forums. Yeah, you can still actually look at it, and like there's links to it.
Yeah,
but
yeah, you can still find it. But I think that they were kind of embarrassed by the numbers.
Maybe that's why. Because when we played, we specifically chose Deliverance at the time because it was the lowest populated server.
Right, but at the, like it was lowest, but it still had 100 plus people.
It had
online.
Let's say 70 to 80. I would say it was below, maybe 90. It had below 100. I think it was the only server that had below 100.
Right.
Right. So that's odd that they wouldn't show. Maybe they were just, like you're saying, they would have had to actively get rid of that because it was everywhere. You could see the population everywhere.
Right.
In the tutorial, on the forums.
Yes, there was Exodus, but there wasn't Celebration when we started. So Deliverance and Exodus had opened maybe a couple months, maybe a few months before we started.
Yeah.
We started at the beginning of 2012, and I think those servers opened at the end of 2011.
Yeah. Yeah, so we started about 8 years ago.
8 years ago, yeah.
8.5 now, I guess. Almost 9.
Right, and Celebration came out not long after that.
Yeah, so that's surprising. So that's one way, yeah. They should keep showing the population of the servers. That's one way. There's other things they could do that wouldn't be great. You would have to wrap your head around certain things, I would think.
One of the things that came up before was, that adding a mechanism to make land go back to natural state. Will that, do you think that applies here or affects anything here?
It would
relates.
be. I think it's something they have to do, but no, no, I don't think that it does.
I mean, in terms of like making a newbie, like a new player comes in and sees, let's say, currently an older server with like a starter town that has been completely terraformed and decimated, and then has been abandoned. Like, I don't know.
No, it's true that they need to do it, but they need to do it because when this game is healthy, population-wise, that's when that becomes more effective. When the server can restore its natural wilderness state. Because all that would do for new players is to just reinforce in their minds that this game is dead.
Right.
But yeah, they need to do that, and we mostly talk about that when the game is more populated. They're like,
but
there's so much stuff, and now everybody's leaving, and now no one wants to take over that land. That's
but even if there was, it's like, even if there was nobody left and a new player comes in, but they enter the world and it's more natural overall. I feel like there's a sense that they could then make it lively. Oh, I'm gonna have to just AFK for a second.
Here. I also agree with that for certain players. Certain players do want to see wilderness, but I don't think that what would happen is if every place was wilderness because of this mechanism, it would just reinforce that this game's dead. And there's stuff that they could do to help with. And Drogos, you're saying some people want low population, some want massive. Yeah, I don't know why they got rid of that. I actually didn't realize that they got rid of their ability to tell us about the population, especially in the tutorial. For you guys that want to know about the population not in the tutorial, so like on the browser, does anybody have a link? I have a link somewhere of... Here you go. Okay, so if anybody wanted to know the population of the servers, you guys can use this link. I guess for everybody in this stream, you get the benefit for seeing this link and save this link. It tells you the population of every server along with a bunch of information in the game, like weather. It'll tell you how long the server's been up. It'll tell you worm time, that sort of thing. Here you go.
That's a weird name for a website. Battles/stats.
Yeah. There's actually a couple that is out there, right? Dezo, you just linked one of them that I used to use. The problem with that one is that it's not complete. For example, it doesn't have the new stuff, the new servers and that sort of thing. But it still works as far as I'm aware. And it looks better.
Yep. Niarja also has.
That's true. Niarja also has it. That's an unofficial one.
Right. So Tuxie is saying what I was trying to say. He said it way better than I did. So.
And what was that?
Right. Like, okay, so she said, wilderness absolutely does not make the land feel dead. It makes the land feel beautiful and full of potential. The wilderness survival aspect is one of the main reasons why I personally was attracted to this game. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. So, like, for a person to come into a game and it's like,
a lot of players like
wilderness and there's potential. Like, you look at like this hill and you're like, wow, you have a vision of what you could do with that hill, right? But if you come in and it's like completely developed, all blocky and square, and there's decaying buildings, or potentially the buildings are completely gone, leaving furniture just lying all over the place, and it's like flat, terraformed areas, and that's your first impression of the game, it doesn't feel the same, you know, like it feels like the whole land has already been used up.
No, it's true. It's true in the sense that 100% we need to solve that problem. And a lot of players want to see wilderness. They want to go and have wilderness available to them, right? That's one of the main things. But I don't think if you only saw wilderness and no players, I think there's also a shelf life to those kind of players as well.
I totally agree.
There has
with you.
to be a balance, and that's what needs to happen 100%.
Obviously, the best case scenario is,
but it doesn't solve the problem of spread out, like players too spread out. Right? Because if you don't solve that problem, then naturally the next thing that they're going to do to try to increase players again is to create more servers. They're just going to create more servers, and it's just going to exacerbate this issue every single time they do that. More servers,
I wonder if
and
there'll
more
be less
servers
need
and
for
more
servers
servers
if they add this the land regenerating, right? Like the reason why people feel they need that need more servers is like there's not any more room here to take, even, and people don't really want to take the abandoned dead deeds.
And yes, they would need to do that. The problem really then becomes, what do they use as a marketing tool to bring those players back?
Right.
If they never have to release new servers.
I mean, I think that this regeneration is going to solve both problems. It's going to make it so that there's reusable land in places that are closer to the population, right? Like, if currently there's a whole bunch of abandoned deeds that nobody wants to take, then it causes people to spread out farther to the natural areas, and just you get this urban sprawl sort of spread.
I agree, and that's how I started this. Like, it solves the problem of people not feeling like there's enough wilderness in the world. That's why we need it. The only thing it doesn't solve is how to bring these players back, or how new players would feel that the game is nicely, balancedly populated. Where's that solution?
Right.
Because the ultimate solution right now that they're saying is to just release a new server. It's easy, it's effective, short term, it works.
Okay, so hold on. Let's see what people are saying. So
just that,
Parser, you're saying
I don't like
there was a post about the technical challenges of erosion, but when I started to think about Jackal, but in reverse, where hostiles start to take over the overpopulated area.
You gotta
drop fighters to the area.
Gotta speak into your microphone whenever you go that direction for some reason.
Yeah, that's weird. I wonder if it's the setting on the back here.
Oh, my
sorry,
ears. No, that's okay.
That changed something? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes.
I don't know.
Did you change to the omnidirectional?
Yeah, omnidirectional. That's interesting. I didn't even know that they had that feature where the overpopulated areas attracted the mobs. I'm wondering why they don't use something similar on the regular servers.
Here's another idea.
Yeah.
Here's another idea. How could they figure out a way to reduce the amount of land? Is that possible? How could they do that in a way that makes sense? Let's say to the players, makes sense to the lore of the world, makes sense to the health and population of this game.
What are you referring to?
how do they make could they do to make it so the land starts shrinking, or they reduce the amount of land in this game that makes sense, that doesn't piss off people?
How do you go back and remove some of the servers? I don't think that's possible. Honestly, I don't think it's possible. I also don't think it's needed, because people who want to play together could congregate in hubs as it is. Like, there are pockets in this world where people have created long-lasting active communities.
And this is a very touchy subject, but what we're saying here is there's too much land. The problem isn't the land that's the problem. The problem is that all of the land, for some reason, a lot of it just looks terrible, like it's been transformed already. There's so much land that you could literally, on the old server, go without seeing anybody for forever.
Yeah.
And so, there's two things that need to happen here, not just one. The first one is they need to figure out a way to turn abandoned land back into wilderness completely. That's step one. Once they do that, all of a sudden we have an abundance and too much land, where it's to the point where there are certain events that take place, and it just takes too long to go to those events. I won't even think about it, right? Yeah. Or it's to the point where, and I never thought of this before, let's say Xanadu came out, before all the new servers came out, and I'm even thinking like Release and Pristine and Celebration, those are new servers to me.
Right. Raise taxes in certain areas and give rewards in other areas. Interesting. That's an interesting way. Yeah.
They could do certain things like that, right? Land turns back to natural, but then let's say they're trying to close a server without closing it.
Like, it could be so much as upkeep is different depending on where you are. The farther out you are, it's more upkeep.
They could remove it from the tutorial. Let's say it's no longer in the tutorial, so new players wouldn't go to it. And then on the actual land, they can start converting parts of the unclaimed land to do something different. Amethyst's whole idea of creating a different kind of land, like it's getting corrupted, it has different resources, it has different animals, so people still want to go there, but you don't want to go there, you can't deed it, but you want to go there for a reason. It becomes a different kind of worm that benefits all of us. And all of a sudden, eventually, it's like converted now. So it brings players together without removing that land at all. Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Then it wouldn't feel so bad every time they release a new server with the new thing, like, now people are spread out even more, and I'm gonna miss this. Like there was times on Xanadu where we had friends on Xanadu. This is a different problem altogether. We never went to visit them.
Never, yeah.
Because it would have taken way too long to just travel there.
Because we were both inland Xanadu.
Anyway, that's a different problem altogether. Now just turn that into the amount of servers.
It's related. It's a related problem.
Faster travel, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another touchy subject. I think, for a lot of players.
Honestly, I feel like the thing is that as the game grows and things get further spread out, it only makes sense that you can combat that by allowing faster travel somehow. And I don't see anything wrong with this, aside from the technical limitations of the ability for the server to keep up with where your position is. But I can't imagine, like, by speeding up everything or allowing you to, modify your horse or boat to make it go even faster than you can already. I don't see this being something that would hurt the game any. Allow people to get to places faster. Like, that's one of the first things people complain about is, like, how do I run in this game? Oh wait, this is the fastest I can run? Like, maybe this is where we start off, and the answer to how can we run faster is you have to train up your running skill. Or, you know what I mean?
We already go pretty fast. I think as far as from where we start to where we end in this game, it's pretty good progression. It's not great.
Right, but I don't run any faster than I did on day one.
Right. There's not much faster that you run, but there's progression in the travel speed that you can have. And hey, Cats.
Hey, Cats.
How you doing?
How's it going? Welcome, welcome. We're just chatting about
a very
the problem
touchy
in this
subject.
game with it's like the problem. So it all started with the problem of too many servers, and if they keep adding more servers, it just spreads out the population thinner and thinner. And one thing that we were discussing was, we could bring people together with various like ways. Like one thing we talk about was like the erosion idea of like places that were previously terraformed and deeded up could erode, and this would encourage people to take over abandoned areas more, keeping people in sort of communities that were already established, as opposed to seeking out further land, thus further spreading out the people.
And it's not about the spreading out the people. I think it's more about how do we solve the perception of the game to new players that think this game is dead when they play it.
Right.
That's where we started anyway. I don't know if we're still there.
Yeah.
Oh, and I love that idea about a sprinting skill.
Right, and now we're on the topic of we can counteract the spreading out of people by increasing the speed that we travel so we can get to places quicker. So a sprinting skill, that I really like that idea.
There was a time, so Virgent, you're saying abandoned places already decay. Decay accelerates when the owner has not logged in for more than 30 days.
Yeah.
There was a time where they knew this was a problem because abandoned places stayed basically forever. There was stuff that just never would decay, ever.
Right.
And so they knew it was a problem, and they spent time to figure out how do we accelerate this decay of certain items and stuff on abandoned place to make it more attractive to players. And they went pretty far, I think, because it's definitely no longer like it used to be.
But it's also not only about just the decay of structures, it's also the land is all terraformed and flattened and pavement sticks around for a lot longer, and it's like somebody new to the game will just not settle in a spot that's like this simply because it's
Right.
like back to that hill idea. Like you come across this nice hill and you see all the potential that hill can become, but when it's already been terraformed and flattened, it's like all that's gone, and you don't have that experience of like imagining what it could become because it's already flat.